Good evening. This is CBC Windsor News live at 6, and I'm Jason Vio. Thank you so much for watching. Here's what's making news tonight. A Brampton man is speaking out after he says a Transit Windsor tunnel bus left while he was still inside the Canadian Customs office. We'll hear his story and Transit Windsor's response in a moment. And there's a summer camp happening right now at St. Clair College, and it's helping young kids hone their skills on competitive video games. That Brampton man was taking the Transit Windsor tunnel bus and it didn't reach its final destination. And that man says he was abandoned at the Canadian border. That passenger is also angry with how he was treated and believed race played a role. It's an allegation Transit Windsor strongly denies. Jacob Barker has that story.
It was on the way back from a business trip in Atlanta. Kanayo Nwachukwu got a last-minute invite to attend his son's graduation in St. Thomas. It was his first time aboard the tunnel bus, and he says he found that he was continually butting heads with the driver.
I was discriminated against. I was dumped in the middle of nowhere.
First delayed by over an hour because he didn't have exact change. He also took exception to a comment he says the driver made, suggesting that he doesn't know the reason why customs might hold him up.
And I said, sir, I am a Canadian citizen. I am not a criminal. I've never committed crimes before. So I don't know where your thinking is. I have no reason for them to hold me at the border.
When the bus arrived at the customs facility on the Canadian side, Nwachukwu says he was the last to go through because he held the door for other passengers. He says he was only in the customs office for about 5 minutes or so, but when he and another black passenger came out, the bus had left.
He didn't leave the other white people in the bus behind. He left only the two black people in his bus behind. I just don't know why he could treat me that way.
Michigander Dwayne Boyd was the other passenger with Nwachukwu. He says he didn't have any sort of negative experience with the driver. He helped pay for Nwachukwu's Uber to continue on.
He wanted to say that the guy particularly acted this way to him because he was black. And I'm telling the guy, hey, bro, we go through this practically every day in our lives here, particularly in America.
Boyd says his experiences in Canada have been much different.
And from our perspective, being a Detroiter and Windsor just across the river, you know, it's like a world of difference in that kind of attitude. And I said maybe the driver was just having a bad day.
According to Transit Windsor, the tunnel bus departs from the border crossing based on its schedule, not when passengers clear customs. It also says that the allegations put forward by Nwachukwu are unfounded. Jacob Barker, CBC News, Windsor.
The destruction of snake habitat in LaSalle has resulted in a hefty fine. A man has been ordered to pay $25,000 after being found guilty of destroying the habitat of the eastern fox snake, which is an at-risk snake species. According to the province, the man had participated in and supervised land clearing activities on the undeveloped lots in the town of LaSalle. The lots are designated as areas of natural environment by the town and the county of Essex, which means they cannot be altered or developed. And police in Sarnia are investigating a case where a woman allegedly assaulted someone else with a baseball bat over narcotics. It happened last Friday at an encampment in Rainbow Park. Police say the 45-year-old victim was struck in the body multiple times with a baseball bat and received minor injuries. A 31-year-old woman faces charges of assault with a weapon and 4 counts of failure to comply with a probation order. Well, drama, arts and crafts, and swimming. Those may be some of the activities that come to mind when thinking about summer camps for kids, but St. Clair College is holding one for the digital age. And as Dalton Chen found out, the camp has a great appeal to the younger generation.
Don't look for swimming lessons or s'mores at this summer camp. St. Clair College's Esports Boot Camp is all about competitive video gaming. Aimed at gamers ages 8 to 17, the program is meant to coach the next generation of ranked players in such games as Valorant and League of Legends.
It's a hard game, and it also depends on teammates as well. Right? You can't, because if you're the best, you can't just win it on your own. You need your teammates to help you. I think I could have just made a few better decisions because sometimes I maybe got too aggressive, but I died. It's really fun. I think I've made a few friends, and it's really fun.
Daily gaming sessions aren't the only aspect of the camp. There's also introduction to the ever-growing world of video game content creation, such as esports casting and live streaming. Camp staff say the experiences are meant to develop skills such as teamwork and communication.
Honestly, it's an educational setting. We don't really view it as them just playing video games. We're constantly teaching them, we're constantly mentoring them, because the skills they learn here, it's soft skills, it's hard skills, it's technology skills, and in this day and age where everybody has a piece of technology on them at all times, this generation, they're going to grow up learning all these skills and utilizing them immediately, right?
As for any concerns that so much screen time is detrimental to kids' health, camp staff say the schedule includes time for offline interaction and exercise.
Yes, our off-screen component is to make sure that we're not just, they're not just staying on video games all day, looking at the screen all day. We take them outside and get them their physical activity as well. Then we also have like group activities where we can get them together to learn about something. Our main goal is to kind of teach skills that are transferable to no matter what.
St. Clair College's Esports Bootcamp runs until August 2nd, culminating next week in an in-house gaming tournament. Dawson Chen, CBC News, Windsor.
A large mural is going up on second-floor windows at the University of Windsor's Student Center, and it's meant to stop bird collisions. The school ran a contest for students to enter designs, and the contest winner, a 22-year-old biology student who wants to be a veterinarian one day. Her 10-panel design features different birds and spells out the word Windsor.
We do have about 8 windows that we've sort of identified from volunteer hours as well as the Ornithology Club that have done walkthroughs around the campus to identify, as well as we've opened it up to a call for campus members, staff, faculty, and students to actually inform us of bird collisions and the specific windows that they do collide with. And that is how we chose the design competition for this specific window.
So this is known to be a high bird collision area, which is why that there was a competition sent out. Ever since I was a child, I've loved animals, and animal welfare means a lot to me. When I was designing this mural, I wanted to connect everything, so kind of represent the interconnectedness within the city, and using like each letter on each panel really helped a lot with representing that connectedness. For the audience, especially like everyone viewing the mural, I wanted them to enjoy the design but also at the same time help birds. So I wanted to create it creatively and hope that this design helps the birds.
It was on this date 11 years ago that a Windsor man made national headlines for doing something extremely dangerous. John Murillo, who was 47 at the time, swam across the Detroit River and back on a dare. CBC Windsor host Amanda Ferguson had this report on the incident.
It all started around 11:30 Monday night. Police say here on the Windsor side, they first got a call from the man's girlfriend. The man had been talking with his friends that he could easily swim the distance across the Detroit River there. He jumped in the water and then she lost sight of him. Now the woman does have a good reason to be concerned. It may not be a far distance. I mean, from where I'm standing to Detroit, there's probably about 800 meters between us, but the river is very deep. It is fast moving. Locals consider it to be pretty dirty, and not to mention it's a pretty popular shipping channel, and all this was happening in the dead of night. So yes, police did end up getting involved. There were helicopters, the Marine unit. Police ended up finding the man, not on the American side, but back here in Canada 90 minutes later. They say when they found him, he was quite intoxicated. He was in no condition to be swimming, and they charged him with intoxication in a public place, and he's also facing possibly more charges, but these ones would be under the Canadian Shipping Act.
The Shipping Act for trying to swim across. Wow. Now he's had a couple days to think about it, I guess. What's he saying about his stunt now?
Well, John Murillo, he's 47 years old. He has been speaking to the local Windsor newspapers, and here's what he had to say to the Windsor Star.
For 20 years, and they all laughed at me, and I finally did it, but I would not suggest anybody do it. There's giant fines for doing it, crossing the shipping lanes, and it's just really, really stupid.
Time now for a look at weather. Chris Potter joins us live for that. Chris, I was out for a walk along that river today. It was muggy and nice, but humid. I found a nice shady spot under a tree, sat there, enjoyed the river.
Yeah. Nice. I'm sure you're not alone, Jason. It was kind of a muggy day today, but a dry weather day, at least so far. Things are going to change as we get into the early evening. In terms of the temperature perspective, what you see is what you got. I mean, we expect daytime highs to be around 28 this time of year in Windsor. 28 was your high, and overnight low or early this morning, temperatures typically drop down towards 17.7, and we drop down towards 17. Now, I said we were dry so far with a lot of sunshine. Things are starting to change. The big picture, we do have a large system which is tracking its way through the upper Great Lakes. This is where the organized, steady rain will be. That's going to reside in that particular area, Sudbury, North Bay, Manitoulin Island, through the rest of this evening, tonight, and through much of the day tomorrow. But we're also starting to see these lines of thunderstorms develop. So we do have the first one starting to move in towards Sarnia, starting to break apart, starting to drop down towards Chatham. Windsor is going to start to see some of that active weather roll into town within the next hour or so, with rainfall, a brief little burst with a chance of a few thunderstorms as well. Heaviest rain, like I mentioned, will be to the north, where rainfall warnings are posted by Environment Canada. 40 to 60 millimeters of rain expected. Temperatures currently basically in the mid to upper 20s. Once again, a very typical day weather-wise, or at least temperature-wise, for this time of year for late July. Closer to home, temperatures currently backing off towards Windsor, 25, 26 towards Chatham, 27 in Sarnia, and 25 through Goderich. But of course, the humidity has made it feel at times like the mid-30s. Now, in terms of what will happen with this rainfall just starting to push on in, once again, there will be the risk of a few thunderstorms. That should begin to climb its way towards the north and east as we get into the late stages of the evening. A dry start to the day tomorrow. And Windsor and surrounding areas, you're not going to be targeted by active weather for tomorrow. That's not to say that a quick little burst of rainfall can't move through. Maybe an isolated thunderstorm, especially up towards Sarnia and London during the early afternoon. Once we get into the evening and overnight, start to dry out, we start to clear out, and that's going to be the sign of things to come. For Thursday, we have a large area of high pressure building in from the north, and that's going to stabilize the weather for not only Thursday, but Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday of next week as well. Overnight lows will basically be in the high teens. Most areas will be dry, maybe a couple of drops of rain here and there. Tomorrow afternoon, with the humidity, it's going to feel again like the mid-30s, so another hot one to look forward to or not look forward to, depending on your personal opinion. Temperatures will peak once again in the mid to upper 20s. We're looking at 26 for tomorrow. I'm just holding on to a risk of a few showers in the Windsor area, with once again a slightly more organized potential for a brief little thunderstorm well to the north and northeast. Daytime highs will still be around 26 for Thursday. Once we get into Friday, high pressure moves directly overhead, and that's going to establish fair weather. Like I suggested, it's going to last through the weekend. It's going to last into Monday, maybe even Tuesday. And although temperatures will start off near normal on Friday, they're expected to ramp up, Jason, as we get into Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, back into the low 30s, probably going to feel like the mid to upper 40s when you factor in that humidity.
All right, it looks like a nice little 5-day stretch there. Thanks so much, Chris.
You got it.
Still to come, the Canadian Medical Association says it's time for a frank discussion about private-public health care. That story is next. Alberta's famed Jasper National Park is now at the center of the province's wildfire crisis. Evacuation orders for both the park and the town came late yesterday. The fire blocked all but one road out, with heavy traffic having to creep through that thick smoke. The CBC's Travis McEwen reports.
Margot Bereska and Ian Sheldon feel lucky to be together in their camper with their kids. Margot was in a campground while the rest of the family were in town with her phone when they got the evacuation order.
Bit of a scary drive leaving, you know, because it was very apocalyptic in the sense of a lot of smoke coming in very fast and wondering what was going to happen with them and not having communication.
The town of Jasper has close to 5,000 residents, but this is peak tourism season. There's estimated to be another 20,000 people who were in the area when the evacuation order was issued on Monday night. Many evacuees were sent east to Valemount, British Columbia, as the other two highways were deemed as unsafe. A drive that should take an hour and a half, but many people spent hours in gridlock traffic. Parks Canada says the fire threat remains, and it's now focused on adding more resources to fight the fires, including Alberta's equipment and firefighters. Meanwhile, Jasper residents are left to ponder where to go while they wait out the evacuation order.
Yeah, maybe Walmart tonight, and then maybe find a campsite locally if we can, if they're not all full, and then maybe a friend's driveway if we need to get out away from the highway noise.
Another thing that makes the evacuation of a national park more complex, the presence of backcountry campers. Parks Canada is sending helicopters to designated campsites and trailheads to ensure that campers avoid fire danger. Travis McEwen, CBC News, Hinton.
The Canadian Medical Association says Canada's healthcare system is in crisis. There are still long wait times and emergency wards are often full. Millions of Canadians don't have a family doctor, and in a new report, the association that represents Canada's doctors says it's time for an honest discussion about private and public healthcare. The CBC's Megan Fitzpatrick has the details.
And the CMA says the status quo is not working and changes are needed. In a new report, they note that governments are increasingly turning to the private sector to deliver publicly funded health care. Ontario, for example, is paying private clinics to do cataract surgeries. Prince Edward Island is using a private company to deliver virtual health care to its residents. And given this trend of using the private sector more and more, the CMA says it's time to talk about the mix of public and private healthcare delivery in this country. In a new report, it outlines various principles it says should underpin the health system, including transparency and accountability, and it makes 22 recommendations to address various healthcare challenges.
We should be able to recommend that if we are going to incorporate privately delivered services that are funded by the public system or funded privately, what are our guardrails? How do we ensure patients are getting the quality that they need?
A key recommendation is calling on governments to fund more healthcare teams. The teams could include not just a family doctor, but also maybe a nurse practitioner, a mental health professional, a dietitian, all paid for publicly. Dr. Danielle Martin is part of a family health team in Toronto. She says this model will not only give more access to primary care for millions of Canadians, but give them the right kind of care that they need. For example, someone with back pain, they need a physiotherapist, not a family doctor.
Having a physiotherapist working in a publicly funded team covered by your public health care plan can make a huge difference, and that can also extend the capacity of family doctors and nurse practitioners to take on more patients.
The CMA says 50% of Canadians should have access to a family health team within the next 5 years. Its other recommendations cover a range of topics. Bottom line, the CMA is saying if governments are going to change the existing mix and balance of public and private health care in this country, those policy changes should be based on solid evidence, and they should ensure that patients are getting more access, not less, to quality health care. Megan Fitzpatrick, CBC News, Toronto.
Kamala Harris held her first presidential campaign rally today. The U.S. Vice President was in the battleground state of Wisconsin this afternoon. CBC's Paul Hunter has more.
To loud and sustained cheering. In her first public event since Joe Biden ended his bid for re-election, Kamala Harris had some news to pass on.
So, Wisconsin, I am told as of this morning that we have earned the support of enough delegates to secure the Democratic nomination.
It's been that kind of week for Harris. On top of the light speed gathering of delegates, she's had more than $100 million in donations in just 2 days, 30,000 new campaign volunteers, and more big-time endorsements from senior Democrats.
We are brimming with excitement, enthusiasm, unity.
Senator Chuck Schumer and House Majority Leader Hakeem Jeffries.
I'm proud to strongly endorse Kamala Harris to be the 47th President of the United States of America.
It's a stunning turnaround for a party that had seemed effectively energyless until Biden stepped aside. At that rally, Harris again highlighted her background as a prosecutor as well suited to take on Donald Trump, a convicted felon, urging those in the room to now work to that end.
We have doors to knock on, we have phone calls to make, we have voters to register, and we have an election to win.
This as the vice president's campaign seeks to continue to grow the apparent widespread enthusiasm. Embracing popular online memes and videos such as this, for example, on so-called brat life.
I'm just living that life.
While singer Beyonce has signed off on the use of this song throughout the Harris run for the White House. By contrast, on social media, Donald Trump today called his new opponent Lion Kamala Harris, signaling the battle to come is certain to be an ugly one. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Washington.
State police in Illinois have released body cam video showing a sheriff's department deputy fatally shooting a black woman at close range in her home. Sonia Massey was shot 3 times, and a warning to our viewers, we're about to show you some of that video in the moments leading up to the shooting.
1 second.
Check on her.
Let me do this.
No, we don't need a fire while we're here.
Right. Okay. Let me see. Okay. Where you going?
Huh?
Where you going?
Away from your hot steaming water.
Away from my hot steaming water?
Yeah.
Oh, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus.
I
rebuke you in the name of
You better not. I swear to God, I'll shoot you right in your face.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Drop the pot! Drop the pot!
Now, toward the end of the interaction, you can hear Massey saying, "I'm sorry," as she ducks down. She had called police to her home on July 6th to report a possible intruder, and the shooting immediately drew condemnation from the community as well as state and local officials. Sheriff's Deputy Sean Grayson was arrested and fired. He has been charged with first-degree murder, aggravated battery, and official misconduct. He has pleaded not guilty. Well, still to come here on CBC Windsor News Live at 6, we'll give you another Paris Olympic preview and share some speculation about an iconic Canadian singer who may perform there. Stay with us. Choosing Paris for this year's Olympics brings the Games to a city where famed historic sites are everywhere. And Paris, in choosing the competition venues, is making the most of that history. The CBC's Heather Hiscox reports.
Just look at this place. It's astounding. The Palace of Versailles, one of the greatest achievements in French art and architecture. It started as a humble royal hunting lodge in the late 1700s and grew into more than 2,300 rooms, transformed into one of the grandest palaces in Europe. It was the symbol of the absolute monarchy and the power of the king. One of its most stunning features, this fountain with the famous gilded sculpture of Apollo on his chariot. Apollo, the sun god, the emblem of Louis XIV, the sun king. It's been recently restored to its original resplendence, just in time for its latest Versailles transformation into Olympic venue. Down there, see those spectator stands? All of the equestrian events at the Olympics and the modern pentathlon are going to be held there in the gardens. Paris 2024 organizers made the deliberate move to take the Games outside, into public spaces with some of the most iconic French monuments as breathtaking backdrops. In the days to come, you'll see beach volleyball at the base of the Eiffel Tower, archery in front of Hôtel des Invalides and Napoleon's tomb, breaking or breakdancing in the Place de la Concorde, scene of more than 1,000 beheadings during the French Revolution, fencing in Le Grand Palais. In most cases, organizers put in temporary structures, not new venues, to allow them to minimize the environmental impact. But it's also allowing the beauty and the history of Paris to shine and imbuing the Olympic spirit with the spirit of one of the world's great cities. Heather Hiscox, CBC News, Versailles.
And speculation is growing that Celine Dion will perform at the Olympic opening ceremony on Friday. CBC spotted Dion today outside the Paris hotel where she's staying. Dion signed autographs, posed for selfies, and greeted people in the crowd. She was asked if she was here for the Olympics, but gave no response. If Dion does perform, it won't be the first time. She also sang at the opening of the Atlanta Olympics in 1996. Well, that's it for us here at CBC Windsor News. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, for news anytime, head to our website, cbc.ca/Windsor. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you back here tomorrow night.